said this car was staying stock.
Oh, it's completely stock. So we've got the fuel hat from DivisionX installed into the vehicle. The next step is to be running all the fuel lines, that's the feed and return lines. What we're going to be doing is running the feed and the return up from the bottom of the vehicle. It's best to have someone back here in the back seat help out. They're going to fish those lines up pretty much from the side of the tank here, and you're going to reach down to grab the end of the hoses with your fingers, the easiest way I've found to do it. We're going to attach them here on the feed and return. There's a -10 feed and a -8 return. Going forward to the car, we're going to attach -10 feed to the fuel filter. The fuel filter runs another 10AN line up to the Y block, and then we're going to run -8 hoses from the Y block to the rails, and the rails then to the regulator. We're going to show you exactly how everything's set up in the engine bay once we get there. So here we are on the underside of the car. Before actually running all the lines, you got to do a couple things, which are removing all this crap from the bottom. So this basically covers the factory fuel lines and fuel filter. We're going to remove them. There's a couple little nuts and washers and stuff that holds it up, which we'll reinstall once we're done, but we do need to remove this stuff in order to run the fuel lines and mount the fuel filter. Once we got all that crap out of the way, we have a lot of room to work with. I'm going to show you exactly how we run the lines up into the vehicle so you can access the fuel hat fittings. You've got to run right here up somewhat to the side of the fuel tank, and again, having someone inside the vehicle and running those lines up is a lot of help. Definitely have someone up in there helping you guys out, run those lines in there. So we're running the lines up towards the front of the vehicle under this bracket. This is the area where those other metal brackets I showed you were, which house the fuel filter and the factory lines. We're going to run it to our fuel filter here. This is the DivisionX large Marge fuel filter, which is our larger housing and element. We're running the stainless element since we're running E85. We're going to follow that same path up here to the factory feed lines, all the way up through the wheel well into the engine bay, and then we're going to start from up top, assembling the regulator and attaching the lines from the Y block to the fuel rails and the fuel rails to the regulator. So we've got the lines run up to the engine bay from the wheel well. The next step is to assemble the fuel pressure regulator. This is the DivisionX fuel pressure regulator by Aeromotive. It's a EFI boost reference regulator, and it's a 2-port, so we're going to be having 2 feeds going into it and the return on the bottom. This is exactly how you want to have it set up. Your 90-degree fitting here on the left side of the regulator, your straight fitting on the other side of the regulator, and the bottom is your return port. Now, one thing that you do have to do is modify the bracket that comes with this kit in order to install it properly. So we measure about 5/8 of an inch down from the bend on this bracket, and we drill a hole right here enough to put a M6 screw through it. We're using a spacer, and that's going to use an existing hole on the vehicle to install the regulator. We'll run the lines to it and go from there. As you guys can see, the factory supercharger is still on the car awaiting that big 3.8 liter Whipple. Now, we're not going to install any of the lines from the regulator to the rails or the Y block to the rails because we're still not quite sure if the Whipple location of the rails are in the same location as the factory ones. So if we do need to make any changes to the lines from the current setup based on the factory supercharger, we're going to do that at that time to make it specific for the Whipple setup. Okay, now we're on to the point where we need to wire up the fuel system. On this particular system, we're going to be using the box from DivisionX. This is a triple pump fuel pump controller. It allows you to run up to 3 pumps as well as stage a pump. Some people like to run 2 pumps full time and stage a 3rd pump off of a Hobbs switch. However, on this car, we're going to run 3 pumps full time. So come along, show you how to install the box. On today's episode on how to ruin a brand new $100,000 car, we're going to be installing the DivisionX box. So part of it is going to be running the wires through the firewall. They're going to power the box that is located in the wheel well. So we remove the battery box and the tray to access this area on the firewall. We're using this hole saw right here, 1 inch. Drill a hole through the firewall to run those 4-gauge wires back to the area where we're going to mount that box, and we're going to show you how it's done. Okay guys, change of plans. We actually had thought about running the box and mounting it on the wheel well. However, I realized after looking back there that that's where we're going to be mounting an ice tank from P&R with a Stewart EMP pump. So we're relocating the box to be over here on the passenger side. We're going to be running the power wires across to the driver's side. We're just going to plug directly into the DivisionX fuel hat. So we've got the DivisionX box installed here on the wall here, mounted very nicely. We've also got all of the wires for power and ground to the pumps, as well as the trigger wires for them running across under the seat here, wired up really nicely and taped to the existing wire harness. And then we're gonna head over to the factory plug right over here, which is where we're gonna tap into for the level center wires, as well as the trigger wires for the box controller. So we're on the driver's side fuel pump assembly. This is the factory plug that will plug into the factory fuel hat. This is where we're gonna be getting the wires for the level centers that go to our fuel hat, as well as for the trigger wires for the box. So when the car is keyed on, that means the pumps will run full time. So what we're gonna do right now is take off the tape here on the wiring loom and remove this so that we have access to the wires. And then we're gonna peel it back a little bit here so you have some room to work with. I typically recommend peeling it back several inches so you've got a little room to work with, as we're gonna have to put some butt connectors on them and connect them to the other wires. So you do wanna have enough room to do that. All right, so now we've got the loom peeled back. We're gonna be looking for 3 wires. 2 of them are gonna be the small wires in the center pins. The 2 center pins, they're the smallest gauge wiring here. One is green with a blue tracer. The other is yellow with a violet tracer. Those are your level center wires. And lastly, the trigger wire is gonna be this yellow with a gray tracer. So I'm gonna take our snips right here. I'm gonna snip those 3 wires off the connector, and then we're going to strip them down and then connect them to the wires on the box. There you go. So these are the trigger wires for the box. You've got 2 of them here. One of them runs 2 pumps. The other one is for a single pump. It looks like the green one is for the single pump. So in our case, we're gonna be running 3 pumps full time. So we're gonna hook both of these wires directly up to that yellow with gray tracer wire. Now, if you wanna run a hob switch to trigger that 3rd pump, only running 2 pumps and having that 3rd pump come on with a hob switch, you're gonna use the green wire and put the hob switch in line, so that obviously once it reaches a certain amount of boost, that most people use a 5 PSI switch, hits 5 PSI, it'll trigger that 3rd pump on. So we're going to twist these 2 together. We're going to solder and heat shrink them. And these 2 trigger wires are going to go to that yellow with gray tracer wire to trigger the relays and allow the pumps to run once the car is keyed on. And for all of the pump power and ground wiring comes to this connector right here. We're going to plug it directly into the plug on the fuel hat. Got that real nice plug and play connection. You want to press it in until you hear it click. Close that little red tab, lock it in place, and that's all you've got to do for the pump wiring. So as we're finishing up the install of the fuel system, we started to unbolt the factory supercharger from the engine here. We've removed all of the coolant hoses for the intercooler system. We've got the fuel rails off. Fuel injectors have been removed, and all of the bolts that hold the blower to the manifold have also been removed. We're going to take the supercharger off, mount the Whipple down, then we're going to run the routing from the fuel hoses from the Y block to the rails, and the rails to the regulator, and we're going to finish up the fuel system. So we good to remove the supercharger? Let's do it. Come on, guys. Nice. Look at that. Blower is off. Get rid of it, and let's put that Whipple on, boy. Things are getting exciting. Very excited. Yes!
All right, guys, so we're back for the next step of whippling our GT500. We've done quite a few things, so let's take a look at that. First off, we've replaced the stock water neck with the Whipple cast unit, and the reason for that is because the stock one will not allow for the blower to clear. Next off, we have the idler bracket pulley, which has been installed, and we've also gotten our DivisionX fuel pressure regulator along with the fuel pressure gauge. That's what you can see so far. The other part that you can't see right now is the Whipple intercooler pump. So it's a dual pump setup, which increases flow by 40% compared to the stock unit. Fun fact, you can also use that Whipple intercooler pump on a stock GT500 setup. So everything's looking really good right now. I think we're just ready for the blower, so let's get to it. And there you have it. We are one step closer to having a Whipple supercharger installed on the GT500. All right, guys, so we got the blower on, we installed the lid. Let's go over a few details. First of all, the heater hose that is supplied by Whipple, that's gonna be joining the factory heater hose. Just remember to remove your factory pipe and replace it with the Whipple-supplied fitting. As far as a pulley, we're gonna be doing a 3.5-inch pulley by GripTech, and it seems like the fuel system is completed now that we put the finishing touches on the feed line. As far as the map sensors, we got 2 of them. One's gonna be behind the throttle body, and the other one, the factory boost pressure sensor, which was located on the rear passenger side of the blower, has now been relocated to the front driver side of the Whipple. Whipple also includes the extension for that harness. And that's it for now. I'm pretty excited to get this thing on the road and see what it feels like.
Seriously, give me the crate challenge. Let's do it. I'm ready for it. Seriously. Watch me bounce and break. We're gonna check those lines and make any changes needed to make the kit specific for the five, you man. Fucking mother.
What happened?
Good?
You think you got it this time?
I don't know if I've got it this time. I really don't have it. I mean, that's why you edit me. You edit me. I never have it. So this is the moment we've all been waiting for, an awesome crotch shot of me. There you go, Pobs. You got it? Zoom in. Take a good look, guys. Mustang King balls in your face. So, I think I'd take another deuce, bro. All right, you ready? Yep. We provide in the kit. We're using an existing mounting hole in the strut tower brace, as you can see down there. Strut tower brace. God. Idiot. Existing mounting hole on the strut brace right here. Strut brace.
It's all right.
Mommy! Using the bracket that we provide, as well as the bolt and spacer, as well as the existing mounting hole. We provide the existing mounting hole.
We provide the existing, actually Ford does, but yeah.
I'm crashing right now, dude. I'm not crashing. I'm crashing.
Do you even know what you're saying?
It's like I know this stuff and I know what to say. I always have a hard time saying it. It's like my entire life story. It's like, Jared, just say it, Jared. What are you trying to say? What do you mean? What do you mean, Jared? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you put that wire in there.
Oh, stick it to me. We good?
Yeah.